Hi. Welcome to this edition of the Halcyon Show. My name's Lauren Risley, host of the show. How you doing? That's probably... I have no idea what that was, but whatever it was annoying. How you doing? It's been a while. About a month since I've streamed last, something like that. So, since it's been a minute, I thought I'd hop on, share a few things. Chief among which is that I have the world's biggest fucking spot right there, which is really annoying. For two reasons. Number one, because it's super duper sensitive and it just won't fucking go. It's just one of those ones that's like really annoying because it just won't go. And secondly, when you lie doing a plank, for instance, where do you lie? Typically on your forearms, front or back. So it just puts pressure on the damn thing. So, my life in a nutshell. It would be fine if it weren't for one tiny little detail. And that's the point of the conversation today. The time between feeling down to feeling better. The last time we had a couple of conversations, things were not going well. And we were just starting the process of mending, the process of trying to get back on track and starting to feel like we were making some progress with things. It's been a month and a half down the road. Things are still not there. As it turns out, that systemic overhaul of one's life takes longer than a month and a half. Who knew? But I wanted to talk about it because I think there's a few people who I am aware of who are going through a transitional period as well. So it's something that I think a lot of people can sympathize with to one degree or another. But one of the things that I think that no one ever talks about, again, because it's not TikTokable, is how it's not a smooth transition progression. And how investment in oneself or one's status or one's perception of oneself can be as detrimental as it is positive. I'll talk about what I mean more later on. But first of all, let's talk about me. Let's get me out of the way. What's happened in the last month and a half? Basically, just kind of going introverted. I've very, very successfully secluded myself from many, many things of my life that were causing me a lot of stress and a lot of discomfort and just, kind of just bugged me, basically. And now is the time, though, to reintegrate. Now is the time to try and re-establish some connection, because one of the things you can't do when you're in a downward period is to isolate yourself. It really doesn't serve a purpose beyond kind of giving yourself distance from something that is harming you. But once that harm is mitigated, it is important to remember that life has to go on and you have to re-establish yourself. So one of the things that I'm starting to do now that you'll be happy to hear is the interviews. You may have seen that I interviewed a young man by the name of Blooms recently. He was one that I kind of hit up on a whim. So not one that I was scouting for a very long time, but once I saw his videos, I sort of digested all of them very, very quickly. And I just had to talk to him. So he was cool because he was cool to just hop on. And he's super young, super new in his career. So it's really exciting to kind of talk to someone at the beginning of their career. Other news. I know y'all don't want to hear about battle rap. But I want to talk about it. So there's a couple of pretty seismic announcements this year in terms of the battle rap landscape. Chief among which is the fact that there's a battle for, I don't think it's going to be for both, but the champs are battling. Gemini versus Charlie, good to see you. Gemini versus Bizzo Bond. I feel like I've got to get a hold of both of those boys before their battle. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I've got to get a hold of them before the battle because I've got to talk to them both. It's so pro wrestling. I fucking love it. There's a couple others. I won't disclose who because it's too early. But man, I really, really want to talk to these guys. Yeah. There's one other at the moment as well that's in the pipeline. Wrestling related. So hopefully that'll pan out in the near future. So we'll see how that one goes. I hope anyone that enjoyed Mania enjoyed it thoroughly. And, no spoilers here. But I hope you enjoyed it. So the reason I'm on this tangent is because that's part of it. As you know, I haven't really uploaded anything recently, and I haven't uploaded any live streams or anything like that. Chief among which because I don't believe in talking about stuff for the sake of talking about it. I really do believe that content, it should have a point. It shouldn't just be to satiate some bloody algorithm. So I never know how to pronounce this. It's either Fabian or Fabian. I had a friend in school called Fabian, by the way, young fella. Got separated after we were flooded out in '98 in Northamptonshire, so that was fun. But if you're talking about as a person getting better, I hear you. I'm 41 and just getting better and finally not almost getting divorced. Yeah, so this is the thing. It's not an age thing. This is the crazy thing about this this conversation that I wanted to have today. Is it's a transitional thing. It's a human thing. When you go through a downturn for one reason or another, it's almost impossible to sort of circumnavigate some of the things that you have to go through. That's what one of my videos was about, was trying to give you some tips on how to do that, because I've done it a fair few times by this point, so I should know a fucking thing or two. But one of the things that I didn't really talk about is when those periods of downturn don't progress. Let's break it down. So for me, again, I want to use me as the example because I know what I'm going through. Physical. Okay, let's take about physical. I have battled with my weight almost constantly since I was 22 years old. It's just been something that I really struggle to keep on top of because I'm an endomorph. I just naturally inhale and retain calories and body fat. One of the things that I sort of have been doing since maybe middle of November last year has been training regularly, but the problem is that I've been inconsistent in the intensity and the direction of the training that I've been taking. Diet's been a bit wavy as well. Stress levels have been all over the place. Sleep's been all over the place. So committing to it is one thing, but the result that I want to derive out of it has been another. Now, in the last 3 weeks, I have kicked up my intensity a lot, but that's come at a cost in that I hurt my back pretty badly. I'll give you a very quick description. It was like someone had put a red hot poker in the middle of my spine, and then the pain radiated outwards into my shoulder blades and into the top of my shoulders. It was unlike anything I've ever felt before. It was not fun. And that was the day after I was out for a jog, and my calf muscle, my left calf muscle, right between the middle where the two bits meet, where, all the guys like to flex and show off that bit. So that bit there, it was like someone had shot me in the leg. Couldn't put weight on it. Couldn't walk on it. Couldn't run on it or anything. So as a result of me just trying to get some bloody, progression by dialing up the intensity, I ended up hurting myself. And then I had to take 3 or 4 days off. And this was around Easter. So, of course, my kid wants to eat Easter eggs and junk, and I'm all the happy to oblige. So I ended up putting on a few vanity pounds, even though I've been training hard. So it's one of those situations where you I've just noticed, actually, that the quality is a bit skittish. If it's bad, let me know in the chat and I'll tinker. But anyways, so there's that. So like you say, even though I've been training for now 5 months, almost 5 months straight, and I do feel stronger. I do feel like my cardio is a lot better. My range of motion is better. My exercise regimen is more complex and more diverse and more strong and more sturdy. I still look like shit. The best thing anyone can say about how I look at the moment is I look stocky. Do you have any idea how that feels for a bloke to say, oh yeah, you look stocky? Yeah, that's all right if you're down the pub pounding pints and shoving pork pies in your face. Motherfucker, I barely touch carbs anymore. The only thing I have that's sort of calorific is occasionally have chicken, like from the delicatessen, and they're about 300 or 400 calories a piece. So they, it's not as if, it's not as if it's fat free, but at the same time, man, like it grinds on you because it makes you want to go back. It makes you want to regress. Talk about the YouTube thing as well. Because I took my oars out of the water, it's depressing to kind of look at the figures, and it's like, wow, if I really don't grind on this, it's like it really doesn't go anywhere. So you got to be prepared to go back into that. So what do you do between this downturn, this like, man, this sucks and it's hurt me and all the rest of it, to right, I actually feel better now? There's a couple of things. I'll give you one of the examples that I had when I was properly down. This is when weight is the best example because it's the one that kind of it affects you physically and mentally and also socially. When I was about, like I say, 21.5 stone, one of the things that I did when I first started is, and it was in COVID, so it was kind of a double-edged sword because it served not only as a kind of a reunite. You know, we were all looking forward to it. Like, man, I can't wait until the day I finally get to reunite with my friends and my family, in my case, my kids. Like, you imagine what it's going to be like. You kind of picture this scenario as to what's going to happen when you see each other for the first time and you're allowed to embrace. One of the things with me was, because my social life was kind of in the toilet at the time, work was really my only outlet for socialization. And one of the things that I figured would happen at some stage in the future is we'd either be all called back into the office, or people in the office would want to throw a get-together to kind of have the opportunity to catch up with everyone, get some gossip and all the rest of that sort of shit. And what I envisaged is, right, I'm going to use this time so that by the time they see me, I don't want them to recognize me. I want to look so drastically different and better that it shocks them, that it puts them out of joint immediately, that it's shocking to them almost. Do you know what I mean? And that gave me a fire. That gave me an ambition. That gave me grit when I didn't have anything left to give. And it made me consistent in everything. One of the things that I know I lack at the moment is that kind of end goal. Like, it just seems like at the moment, like a lot of things I'm aiming for don't really have a point to them. I know they're the right thing to do, but it's doing it for the sake of doing it almost. So one of the things that I would tell myself, because I know it works, and I would tell you, is try and have an end goal. Try and have some, even if it's unattainable almost. Like, again, like I imagine myself walking into a bar or a pub with the music blaring and all the rest of it, pushing the door, and I'd be like, holy shit, is that Lorne? And I've been just like jacked, you know what I mean? Like size. But thing is, I can't do that. Like, I'm sizable now. Like, I'm quite big for me right now. But the problem is that that just doesn't translate to shredded muscle. I'm a big boy, so it's a thing where I have to lose the weight altogether, which means basically cutting out all my fucking calories and sleeping all the time and just running every day and not really weight training, which I find completely miserable, by the way. Or this, and this is the best compromise at the moment, because it's something I have been able to do consistently for the last 5 months. But it's that thing of now trying to find, like, right, what's the purpose? What's the reason? What's the point? What's the payoff? And I think for me, it's being able to go on holiday at some point in the summer. I'm thinking about it more and more and more, but because it's still kind of a nebulous prospect and I don't know what I want to do, it's still not quite come together. But if I was going to give you the advice, it would kind of harken back to what I was talking about, is you've got to be honest with yourself about what you actually want. Now, I don't know what each individual is going through, but I will share with you that there have been a couple of people that I've spoken to recently that have had pretty bad setbacks. I can relate because, again, my setbacks have... there's enough distance between them now that they don't hurt quite so bad. They're just on my mind. You know, you can watch my previous videos to feel... I won't bore you with the details again. That's what the other videos were for. They're still on my mind, though. They're not resolved. They're not resolved to my satisfaction, certainly. So it's how do you manage that in the meantime? Well, the best thing I can say is that you kind of manage it so that you're as prepared as you possibly can be for the day that there is a reckoning, or the day that it's time to step up and it's time to fucking go. For me, like I say, it's about just trying to stay mentally acute and aware of myself. Trying to be jovial. It's hard work sometimes. I really want to be a miserable fuck sometimes. I really do. I just want to kind of crawl into my room, blare fucking heavy metal music as loud as I can, and just eat shit and game, and that's it. But that doesn't do anything. And more to the point, what happens when one day I'm called upon for whatever reason? I'll be useless. For me now, it's just about being ready for the next step whenever it presents itself. And I don't know what the next step is yet. I'm not a very planny person. I tend to take life as it comes. Now, I would hope that those among you watching this, or who will watch this, have a bit more of a grasp of your life than me. That you have some direction. You're not completely rudderless like I am, like to the point where I don't even know what I'm going to have for fucking lunch tomorrow. I don't know. Whereas y'all hopefully have some semblance of what your 5-year plan is, or a year plan, because that's another good idea, is to try and at least give yourself goals. I mean, some CEOs used to come to our school, and they used to give us that thing of write down your goals and aspirations. Give yourself a success diary. I think one tried to coin the phrase. And it's that thing of, okay. But there's some sense to it. Writing it down is one thing, but I think you've got to pay attention to it. That's the other thing. And as far as feeling better, the other thing I would point to is I think a lot of people don't want to give themselves license to feel better. And this is the investment that I was talking about earlier. One of the things that I've noticed recently is that a lot of people stay on certain courses because of the amount of investment that they've put in going on the course in the first place. What that translates to roughly is that a bad idea becomes a worse idea because you don't acknowledge that it's a bad idea. For me, for instance, one of the bad ideas that I had initially, at least, is this idea that I can go on tears. I can just be mad at everything and get my way eventually by just being a unrelenting twat to people. Of course, that doesn't work for very long because sooner or later you encounter something that's bigger and twattier than you. And you overplay your hand and you're punished for it. So it's always a better idea to try and navigate the world based on who you are. Like actually acknowledging what your strengths and weaknesses are, trying to accentuate your strengths, negate your weaknesses or improve them if you possibly can. And I think one of the other things that I've learned recently is this idea that even doing all of the right stuff doesn't necessarily translate to the right result. Sometimes, like I say, it's the temptation is to do the wrong thing because doing the right thing hasn't yielded the result. It's hard to stay the course sometimes. It really is. Like, again, there's people in my life right now who I want to just pick up the phone and yell at. Just, oh, fuck, you're just wrong on this. You're just wrong. Just admit you were wrong so we can go back to things being okay again. And it's hard work because that's not how they work. And even then, it doesn't matter because they would want things to play out the way they want them to play out, as unreasonable as that might be. So then you're put in the position of having to either stay your course and do the right thing, that you know is the right thing, or falter and kind of buck into their trend. And that's not a good idea either. So, and again, a lot of what I'm saying is harder to implement rather than just say. I realize that not everyone, I'm fairly privileged. I can kind of go back into the lab for a little bit. Most of y'all have significant others, close friends, family that you're in almost constant contact with. It's not easy for you to be able to just kind of close the door, be away from stuff. But I will tell you, I know that's hard, but man, sometimes I wish I had that. I wish I didn't have to be this, I don't know, this kind of self-soothing, overly self-reliant person. I rant a lot, but ultimately I take care of a lot of my own shit because I just don't trust other people to take care of it for me. Like, even, I'll tell you a funny thing about me. Don't like getting presents from people. I'm also not a fan of people cooking for me or making me anything. Like if someone makes me a tea or a coffee or a meal, God forbid, I feel such an imposition. I feel like, oh man, I'm putting you out by doing that. Never once do I think maybe they feel good for doing it. You know what I mean? That's how this is messed up in that sense. And I would hope that you are not that way inclined, because then that means hopefully you can function socially, whereas this idiot can't. But my point to all this is, if you want to feel down while you're going through this process of kind of picking yourself back up from a breakup or from a loss or a firing or something that just didn't pan out, I get it, I really do. But the most important thing is to remember what you started on, stay the course, but also if you're on the wrong course and you've kind of acknowledged it, because this is the other thing, when you start on this journey, when you're down, it's very easy to make emotional decisions or decisions based on emotion. They are almost always wrong. Almost always. It's very, very rare for people to make a decision based entirely out of an emotion, a need, a want to quell something or do something, and it pan out well. Because what happens when the emotion subsides? It's hard to make a logical decision in those moments. It really is, but it's imperative that you do. And again, that's why I would argue one of the best things to do is to give yourself some distance from the catalyst from it until you have a time to not let the pain subside or even the problem subside, but certainly give yourself an opportunity to kind of readjust and reapply yourself. And when you start to feel things start to falter, try and remember why you're doing it In my case, like I say, ultimately why I'm doing it is because I don't want to fall back into the person that I was for 6 or 7 years, where I felt completely worthless to everybody and everything because I was fat, I was bitter, I was repetitive, I didn't go anywhere or see anyone, so I had very little to offer from a social perspective apart from my wit and obviously the people that knew me prior. Like, I wasn't a good person, generally speaking. So at the moment, I just don't want to, I guess I just don't want to regress into that. But my failing at the moment is I don't really have a clear path forward. I don't really know what my next step is. So I've got to be careful about making too many steps in the wrong direction before I realize what that next step is. And the same goes for you. That's what I'm saying about the investment element. Some people really do get so invested in the kind of person that they think they should be. You see that all the time with these influencers and whatnot, where they're so invested in this character that they've cultivated, or their online persona that they've cultivated. And it's like, dude, just be you. There are so many people that I talk to on a one-to-one basis who are different than when they're in a group or when they're at work or when they're online. And every single one of those people, ultimately I go, dude, I wish you were just like you were to me, because when you're like this to me, you're just a fucking don. You're a fucking gem. And if you were like this, everyone would love you. But some people feel, for whatever reason, that they've invested in themselves to a certain point where they have to act a certain way, to the point where, like, I think that's why you're seeing a lot of this stuff in you know, with people making very outlandish statements or doing things and feeling completely just, well, I'm not going to apologize because this serves no purpose in it. Man, honor should count for something in this day and age, where you can apologize when you fuck up. It's okay. It's all right. We all make mistakes. For instance, I make mistakes all the time. I feel bad about them. I'm getting better at not only apologizing when it's appropriate, because sometimes it's not appropriate to apologize straight away. The other person has a right to feel aggrieved and pissed off. But also then to forgive yourself, ultimately, for fucking up. Just literally today, DM exchange with someone that, you know, conversations didn't... Charlie, I'll come back to that in a sec. But backwards and forwards for a long time, just not really seeing eye to eye. And yeah, it's cool. It's all good, baby. And that's because there can be a bit of a reconciliation. I feel grateful for that. I feel grateful that there can be forgiveness. And that is only possible when you don't have this investment in this idea that it's black or white. I mean, life's hard, man. And it's made harder by people that are unreasonable. And it's made harder by people who don't want things to diverge from their own path. I know I can be like that sometimes. In fact, I'll give you an example. This is a stupid example, really. Training today, went for a run, get to the silly little frame that I train on, and there's a guy. I don't think he knows how to use the machine properly. It's an overhand bicep curl. So the idea is that you kind of overhook the top, slide your hands through, and then you pull upwards like that. And it's got some weights either side, so it's kind of like on a pendulum. It's not the greatest bicep workout in the world, but it certainly beats the hell out of free weights that they would chain to the floor, I guess. But this guy, for whatever reason, was hip thrusting. He was resting the bar on his nuts and thrusting it backwards and forwards, like, I don't know. I don't know what he was doing. And then he would take the bar and he would sort of push it down and then push it behind him backwards and forwards, like swinging it, like I say, like a pendulum. I don't know if he knows what that machine's for. And the reason I bring it up is because in my mind, it's like, for fuck's sake, this guy's not only in my way because he's in between the two frames that I like to use, so I'm going to have to walk past him every two. It is such an unnecessary distraction. When you're training and you're trying to stay focused on the next exercise and you're breathing and you're just trying to get through it. And in my case, I've only got an hour because I do it on my lunch break. So I've got to circumnavigate my town because I go for a run, and then I've got to get in the calisthenics in an hour. It's not easy to do that when you're constantly just going like, what the fuck is he doing? And it's everything in me not to just drop. Just drop, fuck it, I'm bouncing, I can't deal with this. because I just want it my way. I just want it my way. Instead, I just kind of took a breath, closed my eyes, went, right, running away at this point doesn't solve the problem. Nothing's going to solve the problem. I could talk to him. I'm probably going to offend him. So Charlie's making reference to it, called demented squat. Listen, man, I got no problems with people using public equipment. I'm there using public equipment, okay? However, what bothers me is that all of them have diagrams on the side that tell you how to use them. They even draw a little person showing you what you need to do. So the fact that he's... Oh, fuck it, I got to demonstrate. So literally, like... So imagine that's the bar. So he's doing that. Okay? And then he turns around and does that. And then this is what he does. He puts his nuts on it and starts like that. I'm like, dude, brother, what the fuck are you doing? And it wasn't as if I was there and he kind of sidled up. He was doing that before I got there by himself in the middle of a fucking park. Not anyone around. So it wasn't as if he was showing off for anybody or anything. But, like, it just bothered me. And again, it's stupid that it bothers me because it's not mine. I don't own it. And I'm not the fucking weight police. It's, you know, I'm not. Charlie, man, you're killing me. Everyone should read those fucking instructions. Chief among which parents who let their kids go on those fucking things, because it says on the side, not for fucking under 14-year-olds, I think it is, or 15-year-olds, I forget. Same with by the way, just quick sidebar, parents that weight train their kids, fuck you. Stop destroying your children's body's ability to grow properly, okay? Charlie sees my point now, and I'm sorry for anyone that watches that and had to see that. I just felt I had to demonstrate because I was like, I'll never use that machine again because now I know that machine has had his nuts resting on it for a good 5 to 10 minutes, and that's just on that day. He probably uses that machine a lot. So, and the fact that I use a part of the pull-up assembly that almost no one never uses because no one can reach it. I'm the only idiot that's figured out a way of being able to climb across. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see how. But yeah, point is, before I started rambling about some poor bastard that was probably just, look, he probably wasn't nefarious. He just wanted to get in a workout, doesn't know what he's doing. It happens. We've all been there. It's just one of those things where I'm like, man, it's not what I want. I don't want him here. I want him to go away. It's not that simple. And I still needed to train that day. David, good to see you. You're late. I expect... sorry, actually, when everyone has to go, David, I'd like you to stay behind, please. Thank you. We'll have to talk about your behaviour, and we're going to have to talk about your attendance, young man. This isn't good enough. We've been going for nearly 29 minutes, and now you turn up? Unbelievable. We are going to wrap in a moment as well, by the way, because I think I've ranted enough. Incoherently and otherwise. Anyways, my point, is that I could have given up, could have packed it in, but then my workout wouldn't have been completed. And this evening, having worked out, I'm glad that I persisted because my workout this evening was a bit shit. It just didn't turn out to be the workout I wanted it to be. But it's the point that I was consistent, and you keep going, and you go, okay, I didn't nail it today. I didn't get over the finishing line today. But we're still in the race. We're still going. And that's important. It's important to keep going and not to give up and not to now act irrationally for the sake of it, not to throw your toys out of the pram, not to have a paddy. And to, if possible, acknowledge where you've gone wrong. You know what I mean? David. Oh my god. You can tell David's a battle rap fan. He's fucking merciless is what he is. He is an absolute don. I love him so much. He's a fucking don. Can't wait. I hope I'll be looking don't tell and don't tell Shotty. I'm looking at trying to go to an event in May. Battle rap fans. Don't know which one yet. I haven't checked to see what's on the right. I imagine there'll be at least one event. for either Don't Flop or Prem. I really want to go to a battle rap event though. I really want to go to a battle rap event. It's been, I think it was November last year was my last one. And yeah, I really want to go to another one now. So he did, Charlie. He did. He's fucking ruthless. But yeah, so we'll see about that. But yeah, man. This one went off the rails a couple of times. Because David and a few other things. That poor bastard up in the wherever it was, fucking park near where I live. But yeah, thanks for joining me. It's been a minute. Again, I've kind of ranted and raved on this one. I just really wanted to sit down and talk because again, I understand that, you know, me standing there at the beginning of all this in January or February or whenever it was and saying, here are all the answers, and then not following it up by saying, look, I still believe in the answers. It's just that, you know, we're progressing. We're trying to get through this. Yeah, so I will probably have to go to that one, David, by the way, the Bizzo gem, because it's in August. It's plenty of time. And, you know, I'm hoping to make sure that I've got travel arranged and all the rest of that sort of stuff before I confirm. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm going to try and get a hold of Jem and Biz before then and sit them down and say, right, talk to me about this match, because it's so pro wrestling. I fucking love it. In fact, in many ways, by the way, I would look at that from the perspective of, like, again, Roman and Cody. Like, I get, though, that Biz is champ, so it's not quite the same. But Jem I would look at as the Roman Reigns of the situation. Bizzo I would look at as the Cody Rhodes, because I made the comparison. Cody Rhodes, undesirable to ungoddamn deniable. Bizzo, very much the same journey. Whereas Jem, I would argue he's been top tier or considered top tier for a very, very long time. It's just that he's never been put on the pedestal of being champion. So now that he has, he's got that sort of momentum behind him a little bit, and we all kind of maybe have one or the other tipped. It's just very pro wrestling, and I'd love to talk to them about that. But that's a podcast for another day. We'll see. In the meantime, though, let's wrap it here, because it's 10 o'clock, and it's only Wednesday. And I understand that AEW are going to be releasing some footage that apparently everyone's quite interested in watching. I have my own thoughts on that CM Punk interview. The thing I will say about it, just for the record, because I tweeted about it, is it's depressing to see what's happened to CM Punk as a person. As a performer, obviously, he's still imperious. He's still incredibly entertaining. He still knows what he's doing. The man, though, like, listening to that podcast back in whenever it was, 2013, 14, whenever it was that he sat down with Colt Cabana. I know that there's been some shit that's happened between them since. But watching the interview, I'll tell you what the line was. The line in his interview that made me go, right, he's become a WWE shill now. And you can tell he's definitely shilling. Ice cream. It's like flavors of ice cream. You know who used to make that analogy? And who people parroted it from? Vince McMahon. Like, I'm sorry. Like, the idea that he hated all of this stuff at AEW and he was never at fault for any of it, it's the same again. It's the same again as the shit in WWE, and it's since come out that he was at fault for a bunch of stuff. And you've seen how he deals with things, and you've seen how hypocritical he is. I don't ever... he never compromises the business or whatever he was. He never exposes the business. Like, fuck, that Hangman Page promo exposed the business like a motherfucker. Stop. So anyways, rant out of the way. I just don't... It's just ironic that CM Punk is the reason that a lot of us got back into professional wrestling in 2011, 12, 13, whenever it was. And then again, when he debuted in AEW, like, everyone really started to think, wow, ramping up the consciousness of professional wrestling. And he's now just being overt in the fact that he doesn't really care about fans and what they think and feel. Like, oh yeah, well, when I came back and I made that big speech, yeah, I was kind of pandering a little bit. It's kind of disconcerting. Charlie, just for clarification, the ice cream analogy, I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but Vince McMahon used to make the analogy about his product being like ice cream in the sense of, well, what are we going to serve today? Chocolate. Okay. Well, maybe you like the chocolate, but I like strawberry. Okay. Well, so long as I can have the strawberry and you can have the chocolate, we don't have to disagree on what. It's an analogy that he used to make specifically, and he's been making it for years. I have not heard CM Punk make that analogy ever prior to that Ariel Helwani interview. And the idea that he's now... He now wants to say things like he was close to coming back when the backstage interview... when the backstage role was introduced. He was still on that show talking about how it was going to take an enormous effort to get him back, ever. And he was still bad-mouthing WWE whenever he got the chance. And he was still making comments in that famous scrum that he did, where he basically ended his AEW career by going after everyone, including Tony Khan. One of the things he still mentioned was that the WWE was not the greener pasture. It still wasn't the better place to go. Now, granted, Vince going means that a lot of that goes by the wayside. Vince is responsible for the culture there, but there's still so many people that facilitated that culture. You think that just because Vince McMahon was the one responsible for the sexual harassment that no one else fucking knew that it was happening? That other people didn't look the other way? How many, if not with a reason, then dudes and dudettes, how many things do you see that are fucked up every single day and you kind of just have to look the other way because what are you supposed to do? Driving incidents being the chief. We all drive, and every single one of us will encounter some twat on the road that drives like an absolute animal. But do you take a note of the license plate and call the police after the fact and then follow it up with a follow-up phone call to see if the person's been prosecuted? No, of course you don't. But that's at the low end of the scale. The fact that WWE is now, it's 2.0 and it's a new era and it's shiny and everyone's fuck off with that. You had a good Mania. All is not forgiven. And CM Punk is chief among that hypocrisy from the perspective of this is the guy that left the WWE because of all the stuff they did to him, and then they sued him. Sorry, they fired him on his wedding day, and they sued him for telling the truth about what happened to him, supposedly. And now he's back, and it's, it's water under the bridge. You can't trust I'm sorry, that torches his credibility for me. So the fact that, the reason I went on this rant is the fact that AEW are now releasing footage to try and address statements he's made. It's silly. It is pro wrestling. Hence why sometimes professional wrestling is so infuriating. But yeah, what are you going to do? Anyways, rant and rave over. Thank you very much for joining me. God, I really want to get back to interviewing guests. I'm better at interviewing people than live streams. It's more fun as well. I always enjoy talking to new and fresh and interesting individuals. Couple of pieces of housekeeping before I go. There is an interview that I have still yet to air that I just need to edit with a fellow YouTuber called so Charlie, the doctor did sue. You want to guess who bankrolled that lawsuit? It was WWE. Anyways, but that's by the by, he lost, so it doesn't really matter. Couple of pieces of housekeeping. Cronenborg, I have an interview with him that I still haven't released. I need to get around to releasing that interview, so expect that to drop soon. As I mentioned, there's a couple of interviews that I'm hopefully lining up. I'll let you know as and when I've confirmed them, so I don't get anyone too excited about who and what it is. Live stream, I don't really have anything else that's on the agenda, so you don't necessarily have to expect to see me shortly. If you want to know what I'm up to, please follow me on Twitter and my Instagram, by all means. I usually post stuff on there, so it's stupid stuff, but it's fun to me. Don't forget to send me who you think I should be chasing as well. If there's anyone that you come across that you think would make a good interview subject, I'm still open to seeing who I should be chasing. I love seeing new. Again, Blooms is a great example. Hadn't heard of that guy a month ago. Then 2 weeks later, I was interviewing him. Send me who you got. Be lovely to come across some new folks and some new ideas and some new guest ideas. Finally, I sincerely hope you're doing okay. Again, it's been about a month since I sat down to chat. Charlie, thank you very much for joining me. David, thank you very much for joining me. Fabian at the top, thanks very much for tuning in for a moment. I just hope everyone's okay. I hope everything in the year is J Hunter of OSW. Okay, Sweet. Let me note that down. Bear with me, callers. Cool. Got it. Thank you, Charlie. Let's paste that there. Right. So I will chase that up. But yeah, I just hope everyone's okay. It's been an interesting month and a half. Ups, downs, twists and turns. But I hope everyone is keeping as well as they possibly can be. Onwards and upwards to a bright, vibrant, and hopefully less wet April. Yep, April. And yeah, let's see what we can do in May. Hopefully I'll bump into some of you at an event very, very soon. It'd be lovely to see you. But in the meantime, listen, thanks very much for joining me. I appreciate your time. Sorry for waffling. Sorry for the gyration. It was the only way to demonstrate how much of a lunatic that guy was. He really was a lunatic. And yeah, so my name's been Lorne Risley, host of the Halcyon Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned. And yeah, I guess I'll see you on the next episode of the Halcyon Show.